Hello, hello. Welcome back to RSQ. We're here today with Rob Leigh, the author of Pathlighter. Rob, why are you here with us today? Tell the people why you're joining us.
I'm here today because I am going around promoting book 2 of the Pathlighter Trilogy. Threadstealer comes out today. It'll be 2 days from now.
2 days.
April 10th.
April 10th.
That's exciting.
Yeah.
I love the cover too.
I do too. I was just gonna say, who does your art?
So this is a Felix Ortiz original here. So he's worked with a lot of other authors, Andrew Watson, Rob Hayes, but I've been extremely lucky to get to work with him, and this cover is a dream come true. Absolutely love looking at it. Like, I'll just sit and look at it all the time.
Yeah,
That's my baby. That's mine.
It looks really cool.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. Well, how if someone's just finding us for the first time and they don't know who you are and they haven't heard about your book, how would you describe your series? What's your sales pitch for both book 1 and now book 2 to get people hyped up?
Yeah, so I think one way to describe me as an author is I like writing books based on 2 different things, myth and metal. And so this is the myth part. These books take a lot of inspiration from Greek mythology. So if I could describe Pathlighter as anything, it'd be like the Odyssey and Clash of the Titans meets Frankenstein, Percy Jackson, some of those other really Greek-inspired novels. And then Threadstealer is kind of like the Iliad meets Attack on Titan. So a lot of like fun inspirations going on there.
You got me with the Attack on Titan there.
Yeah, so it follows a group of very flawed demigods with elemental god-driven powers facing off against an ancient evil threat that no one really knows a lot about because there's a scrubbed history. Features a lot of character arguments, really scary, unique monsters, coming into power, found family, touch of romance, touch of betrayal, all the things that people love. So if you are into any of that, please pick up a copy. Or if you have a table with like a short leg and you need to put something under it, then you can pick up a copy.
There you go.
Either way, just go ahead and buy a copy.
Yeah,
so
exactly.
we read book 1 back in August. So that was...
I was just going to go look at the date.
8 months ago. And one of the things that you said flawed demigods, and one of the things that I do vividly remember is that a lot of the issues that the characters have seems to be their own, like they're their own worst enemies. And they need to get out of their own heads, and they need to actually just do the thing they want to do, but they all seem so caught up on their regrets, their desires, their own shortcomings. And so that's a good way to describe it. Very flawed demigods. And I think the flaws there make him more human.
Yeah, I think so too. I think that's something with Greek mythology that I really like. Is just everyone has a fatal flaw, and you either confront that and you get past it, or you perish. So
yeah, that's good. That reminds me of them talking about Percy Jackson, the fatal flaw in Percy Jackson.
Mm-hmm.
Oh yeah.
Did you watch the show?
So I saw the movies, which were terrible. But I've heard the show is really good. We got rid of Disney Plus at some point, so now we're just strictly HBO Max for most of our stuff. HBO Max and Peacock. But I want to get back into it because I know season 3 and season 2 filmed simultaneously, right?
Yeah.
So I'll be able to like really binge when that 3rd season comes out.
It's pretty good. Pretty good.
Nice.
I actually only watched the first season. I didn't watch the rest yet. I was going to, and I forgot about it until like right now.
Well, here's your reminder.
What would be really good is when the 4th season comes out, because book 4 is my favorite, I think, in that.
Book 4. I liked The Labyrinth.
Yes, that is book 4.
Okay.
Yep.
I can't remember if that was that one or Titan something. It's like the black cover book where they're like on the Pegasus.
Oh yeah, that was book 5.
Book 5 is my favorite. The last Olympian.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that one's great too.
Yeah, Book 5 is my favorite.
Yeah, it's always something special when a series like really nails the ending. And I will say Last Olympian nails the ending for sure.
Yeah, I love to see main characters come into their own and really just like start to flaunt their stuff. So I'm excited to see how the characters grow in Threadstealer, because in oh man, I'm totally blanking on names. Because it's been 8 months. I remember the girl who controlled the lightning. She seemed to have the most confidence in her abilities, and then obviously James is like the new one, and he doesn't have his confidence yet. So I'm excited to see, like, as we get into book 2, if we start to see more of that like confidence,
Their
right?
training
More,
arc.
yeah,
Yeah.
right. Them start to come into their own a little bit, which might not be a book 2 thing, but either way, I'm looking forward to getting there. I have I'm a big main character simp.
Yeah, I really really enjoyed the whole arc of Samira, like
Here we
really
go.
like flaunting her powers, especially in the first book, because she's, you know, obviously the one who's got like the most talent when it comes to all of the demigods, all of the chosen. And I think that without spoiling too much, I think James picks up on and learns a lot from her usage of power, not only in a good way, but in the bad ways as well. So.
Yeah, I mean, it seemed like that's what was leaning in the end of the first book, that he was
Mhm.
really starting to like lean into the teaching style.
Mm-hmm.
Did you write yourself a little bit in any of the characters? Like in your heart, are you like, I'm a little bit of James here. Like this is me.
Yeah, I think there's a piece of me in a lot of the main characters. James, I know for certain because I think that James, for most of the first book, is a little bit of a Reddit atheist, and you kind of gotta like grow up from that a little bit. I think there was some of that from me at some point in the past, but for the most part, it's just like one of those things that you have to like grow out of. Everyone's a person, and like people are people, and no matter what they
Sure.
believe, like everyone just wants the best thing. So
Mhm.
it's more of like a you know, just a difference in how we get there.
That's fair.
Mhm.
I know a lot of the time, so because we had the whole indie month last year, but we've been reading a lot more indies recently. And sometimes
Mhm.
we'll have somebody send us a book and they're very clearly writing themselves as the main character, which is totally fine.
Mhm.
But like you
Yeah.
can like see
Yeah.
that they're like, oh, this is me type thing. Or they'll
Mhm.
write like my worst enemy in high school is now the enemy in my book type thing. Like, did you have any like inspiration from, I guess, either your family or friends or any specific people that you're like, it's not this person, but we're kind of like,
Mhm.
I'm modeling this person kind
Yeah, I think Joskin had some personality traits of like someone that I know in real life. I haven't like talked to this person in a while, but they always were a source of like calm, a source of joy, a source of laughter. And I think that that's something that you see Joskin become throughout the source of throughout the course of the first book. So, and a lot of these side characters in the first book were people that I kind of made up on the spot because you can't have a full length novel with just 5 characters.
of.
So watching them grow and get personalities as I wrote the book was a lot of fun.
Very nice.
So, who's your favorite, or what's your favorite Greek myth, or who's your favorite Greek god?
Oof. Favorite Greek god is probably Hades. Because he's just kind of a grumpy dude who does his job. I know a lot of modern, I know a lot of like modern stuff, like the newer Clash of the Titans and like the Disney Hercules movie kind of painted him as like a Satan stand-in, but he actually doesn't really show up in Greek myth very much because they kind of view him as a person or a deity where like if you mention him too much he'll actually like notice and show up, and you don't want that. So he's just kind of often to the side doing his job, and then he only really like punishes people if they mess with him at all. But Greek hero I really do like. I like Perseus, and I like Bellerophon, the guy who kills uh, the chimera. So
Mm.
what about you
So,
guys?
how much? We should answer ours, but I don't want to forget this
Mhm.
question. So how much?
Yeah.
How much? How much of this was like you're genuinely really into Greek myths, and you've always just kind of know Greek
Mhm.
mythology, bit of a little small hobby for me. So I
Mhm.
have just like Greek myths that I've always been interested in, and so I have
Yeah.
information that way. Like, how much of it was that, and how much extra research did you do when you were like looking for inspiration, or when you were planning your book?
Pathlighter actually started out as my own kind of variation on Greek myths and or Percy Jackson. So it was always kind of like like I like this myth, but what if this happened instead? Or what if this demigod did this? Or what if this god was this way instead of that? And I always joke that like Pathlighter is kind of like Percy Jackson if everyone's miserable. Um, but but I think a lot of my love of certain Greek myths kind of spawned the Pathlighter trilogy. So there was some research that went into some of the characters, particularly some of the villains, because a lot of the big villains in Greek mythology are normally just like a god, like the god of the week, who's is terrorizing some human or something like that. So really diving deep into like what kind of monsters there were, what kind of minor gods were a thorn in people's sides. That was a lot of fun to go through and to base some of the villains and the creatures off of.
Yeah, there's definitely a lot of inspiration, I feel like, through Greek mythology because there's just so much. There's
Oh yeah.
there's a god for everything. There's a story, some sort of lesson you're supposed to learn from like everything. But you mentioning Hades does make me think he definitely gives like 9 to 5 vibes. He goes, just let me get through my
Oh,
day. Don't ruin what I'm doing. Just don't mention me too often. Like don't tease me.
Yeah.
Like I just want to do.
He's also the one that like doesn't want the work drama. Everybody, all the other gods are
Yeah.
like really into the like coffee room talk and the like who's sleeping with who, and Hades is like, stop it. Let me do my thing.
Yeah, exactly. And his shift is forever. So
Right.
he's you'd be grumpy too.
Indefinite 9 to 5. Yeah.
Yes.
It's always 4 p.m. for him.
Yeah. It's always that 3 to 4 window.
My favorite Greek myth kind of shifts with whatever Greek inspired media I'm currently into. Played a lot of the Hades 2 video game, and that was really fun. Have you played either of the Hades games?
I haven't. I'm more of like an FPS like 90s Doom game guy. So I need to get more into like other games. I know there's so much out there.
If you do ever decide to like shift and you're like, I want to try something different, Hades is one of those games where if you're into Greek mythology, it's just so much fun. It's a great time.
Yeah, they do a phenomenal job. It's just like weaving in the lore. It looks at Zagreus. I don't know. Have you ever heard of Zagreus?
He's related to Hades, isn't he?
Yeah. So there's like a few different takes on like what his what his origins actually are from Greek myths. In the game, they've spun it as him being the child of Hades and Persephone.
Oh, okay.
Persephone? No. Yes.
Yeah, Persephone.
Is that who I'm thinking of? Curtis?
In the game, I don't remember. I think it's kind of a mystery, and then you find out like at
Persephone.
the end, but I don't actually.
Persephone's the, she's in the underworld, and when she's gone, spring leaves, and when she returns, spring comes again, right?
Yeah, straight up being kidnapped.
Persephone. And also Hades Town, the musical. I don't know if you've seen that or heard of that. It's a Broadway musical that does a take on like kind of like the 9 to 5 and like modern, the commitment of modern work through a Greek musical.
Nice. I need to catch up on my Broadway as well. I haven't really been in the know since my theater kid days, so maybe I need to brush up.
Did you have a theater kid time in your life?
I did. I was in High School Musical for 4 years. The last one was Damn Yankees in 2015. It was over a decade ago.
You are second theater kid turned author who grew up that we've interviewed. But anyway, sorry.
Oh, really?
Sure. I was gonna say I did theater for 1 semester, and I did it for a girl at the time, just because why not? And it was Guys and Dolls, I think was the. Anyway, I think my favorite god is Poseidon. It's who I like. I don't know why, but as a kid, I'm like, this guy's just in the sea. He's got a cool trident. I don't know. Just for me, that was it. That's all I needed. But I also am very impressionable. Where I'm like, if I'm reading a myth, I'm like, this is now my favorite one.
Me too.
Thing. I don't know if I have a favorite that I was like, this is great.
I think one of the cool things about Greek myths is that your favorites and your least favorites can shift at the drop of a hat, because there's always one myth that puts a god in more favorable light, and then that same god in the next myth could be like an absolutely irredeemable asshole. So
yeah, definitely. Like how Medusa came to be from Poseidon, and I'm like, well, he's my favorite except for that like really icky part.
Yeah, exactly. Or I mean, throughout the entirety of the Iliad, it's just people dying and the gods like messing with little pieces of the war, and you're like, just stay out of it, man.
Go away.
Have you read Dandelion Dynasty?
I have not.
So that it's not Greek myth, but it's very like. We always kind of describe it as there's a story happening, but it's all about like the main character is like the continent, right? And it's all about the gods looking down, and like they can't interfere, but they can kind of do little things that tweak like the whole story based on what they do. But I was, that's what made me think of that. It's very good. It's a little dry, but it was one of my favorite reads of last year, even with how dry it was. I'm like, this is just written so well. with how like hands off the gods are, it can still like affect everything.
Yeah. I'll have to check that out. That sounds really cool.
They're cool.
give it a
There's
look.
4 of them. They're very long, but they're very good.
Oh, ain't that the truth about most good series?
Yeah.
Right? I'm not complaining.
That's
Mhm.
true.
I'll sit down and read. I'm going to sit and read anyway. It might as well be one story.
That's right.
Yeah, it's good eats, right?
So you said your book comes out on the 10th.
Yep.
Right? Very good.
Mhm.
So that is that going to be like out everywhere type thing? Is that going to be like an Amazon exclusive thing type right now is where you're selling, or Kindle, or?
So it'll be for ebook. It'll be just Kindle.
Okay.
But then paperback, you can get it at Amazon. You probably order it online through like Barnes and Noble, Bookshop.org. Highly recommend Bookshop.org.
Bookshop.org. Okay.
But yeah, you should be able to anywhere that like can order a paperback copy. You should be able to get the paperback through.
That's what I was going to
Okay.
say. Is if there was a specific site that you recommend people go to if they want to get your book.
Oh yeah, always got to recommend Bookshop. It's a great platform. You can use it to give the proceeds to indie bookstore of your choosing, and it goes to that bookstore, not Amazon, which is nice.
That is good to know.
It is good.
So that brings me to a point, which brings me to a question. For those of you listening, if you do end up reading the book, make sure you leave a review, especially super important for indie authors. So leave a review where you bought it, but also go ahead and check it out on Goodreads, and you can still review on Amazon if you didn't buy it on there. You can do a review. So that's super helpful for all authors, but especially indie authors. Definitely go and do that. But that leads me to my question. Are you, as an author, someone who is like, I'm going to look at my reviews and see what people say? Or you're like, that's not my space. That's not for me. That's for the people. Like, how
That's
do
for
you
the people.
view your reviews? Yeah.
I do look at reviews on occasion. I think most of the time it's an opportunity to either learn or like be pleasantly surprised, and then sometimes to just laugh off a bad review or something like that. So, but most of the time it's just people who read a book and they're like, hey, I liked it, and then that's it. But it's always nice to know that like someone's reading.
That's true. I always wonder about that too, because I feel like for me, like I would just have to avoid it. I'd be like, why didn't they like my book? Type thing. It wouldn't be for me. So I always like to ask that, just curious, and everybody's take, because everybody's different. I feel like some people are like, a mixture of both, or they're like, yes, I look at every single one.
I feel like I've got enough unshakable confidence to be like, if you don't like my book, you're just wrong.
You
left a
have enough
one-star
unshakable
review.
confidence.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
False bravado, false facade.
Okay. If you say so.
I think I interrupted you. Were you about to say something, Rob?
No. I think we also gotta, like, as indie authors, we have to advocate for ourselves. I know it's like kind of can be a little uncomfortable to like ask people to review something or to put a page in the back of your book, but I think Ryan Cothill said it is like if you don't say something, sometimes people just don't know as well. Like sometimes people who otherwise would have left a review just aren't aware that that's something that they can do to help support your work, even if it's even if they're just like, oh, it was fun, might not pick up the next one, but I enjoyed this one. Then that's the word of mouth that can help someone find their next favorite read.
I think that's something that we've learned through doing these interviews, is like, because I just used to never write reviews. I would always rate a book, but I thought that was like, okay, this is what they're asking for. They just want me to rate it. So that way, like the ratings. And I was like, I didn't realize like the value of like actually putting a review type thing. So now, like, I think there was one day I went through all of our indie books that we did. And I like went back and tried to review every single one type thing. Because I was like, you don't know what you don't know.
Well, yeah. And then also, I mean, obviously we want to write the stories that we want to write, but it's a good learning point too. When you read something and, you've got a lot of reviews saying, okay, we really, really liked this, but this was a sticking point for us. Well, that's something that, if enough people say it, or if you feel like the criticism is valid, it's something to learn from too. That's the point of leaving a review or giving your feedback on something, is hopefully something can be learned from it.
What was the toughest like learning curve, like writing process for you, that either not necessarily from like a review or anything, but like when you were writing it, you're like, actually, I need, this is something I have to like, what was the hardest part for you in that process, I guess?
And the hardest part throughout the writing process and the editing process is just to make sure that like there's enough room for things to grow. I think that one of the most valid criticisms of Pathlighter was that the pace is very fast. the pace, you're moving along, you don't really get a chance to rest. At the time, you're writing it, if I were to, give the best Greek mythology comparison to Pathlighter, it's the Odyssey. And that's one where you're constantly on the move. You don't get a ton of opportunity for rest, but there is some in there, and you got to let those character moments breathe. And so while, it's not completely all gas, no brakes, it's something that I think I definitely improved on for the second book. So for the second book, you could call it the Iliad, where there's periods of action and there's periods of rest and reflection. And I think that lends to an overall better pace for the book. So I think that's something that, after book one, and then after writing the novella too, just being able to sit back and look at like the overall pace of your outline and saying, okay, we need to pump the brakes here and make an adjustment.
Yeah. What does your writing process look like for both books? I would say, like, when did you start? How long did it take? And then where'd you find your editor? Who edited for you?
Outliner pantser.
Yeah. What's your situation?
I'm somewhere in the middle for an outliner or pantser. I'm kind of a way poster where I'll set way posts for, like the big moments in the story, but then kind of let detours happen as you're moving from spot to spot. Pathlighter was very much, it was structured by way of those way posts, but Threadstealer, I had to go a lot more in depth and make a full-on outline, because something Threadstealer does differently, if I were to compare it to the Iliad and like Two Towers and Lord of the Rings, is you have people in very different places doing very different things. You got to be able to weave all that together in order to make for a compelling story in 3 acts. Whereas Pathlighter, everyone's pretty much together from point A to point B.
Yeah.
So, so that was something that's very different. And I'm going to be making I'm in the middle of a big outline like that for book 3 as well, because book 3 has a lot more of what you come to see in book 2.
What's your perfect timeline for when book 3 would come out?
In an ideal perfect world.
Yeah, if everything
perfect world.
If there's never any loss of motivation, if everything is exactly as you plan.
No writer's block, just
wow. In a perfect, ideal, possibly perhaps impossible world, I'd probably be looking at the same timeline between book 1 and book 2 for this. So about 2 years and change. There were about 20,000 words of book 2 written by the time book 1 came out. So there was a little bit of a head start there, but I think there were definitely some outlining things that I had to iron out more for book 2, so that even though there was so much of the story written, I had like 50K words written by the time I decided to like scrap 30K of it and then start over with a different outline. And I think the story's better for it, but it was difficult to sit there and go, okay, I think I have to basically start over.
Yeah, back to the drawing board.
Yeah, exactly.
Did you pay for an editor, or did you do like self-edited? Did you pitch your book to any like traditional publishers, or did you always want to do the indie thing?
So Pathlighter did try and go the trad route just a little bit. I sent a few queries out to like some smaller publishers. Didn't really get anywhere. So after that point, this was back in like 2022 or something like that, and I was just kind of like screw it. I want this book out there. Like I want it on the shelf. I want to see something with my name on it. I don't know if I'm going to get anywhere with these trad publishers. From then, I really started diving into the research that goes into like figuring out how indie publishing even works. And so I watched a lot of stuff from Daniel Green, from Jenna Moresi, and they gave me a pretty solid outline. The only thing was that I didn't really know any editors, didn't know any cover artists, so I kind of had to trial and error there. So I did hire editors. I hired editors off of Reedsy, which is a nice tool if you have money, but but I've found that people on Reedsy will they'll kind of jack up the prices a little bit. I think that there were some things that I would do differently with Pathlighter if I would have done it again today, but it was still a good learning experience. And I think that I needed that to happen in order to like gain the community that I have now. And through that community, you find people who want to beta read. You find people who are good editors who will charge you a fair price and stuff like that. So I'm still very happy with the author journey that I've had, despite the big learning curve at the front.
Yeah, it's really it's one of my favorite parts about interviewing indie authors is just hearing the different author journeys, because we've had a mix of people who had a positive experience and who had a really negative experience with hiring editors and with just the whole indie space. So it's always interesting to just see what it looked like.
Yeah, it was. I would still say that this experience was overall positive. Just there's always things that you can improve on, and I think that the business and the publishing side of it, I think, is something that has vastly improved since I started, which is the goal.
So I know you're doing it right if you're getting better.
Absolutely.
So if you had, I guess this is gonna be kind of, I guess, a tougher question. Maybe. I don't know. But so you got your next book coming out, right? Like do you have like in like a 5 to 10 word like little blurb, like what would the tone of your upcoming book be? So if you had to be like something like, I don't know, something super sinister, like something like more like how should we go into this? Should we go in like about to be hurt? Should we go in like things are about to go well? Like how should I need to feel?
Are you going to hurt us, or is this going to be a walk in the park?
I think a small blurb would be like, be prepared to grow, but it's gonna sting.
Okay.
I think at the end of the first book, you have characters who are resolved in what they want to do. Like they have convictions and they have a new path, so to speak, that they want to follow. Particularly James. But then the second book is all about like, well, what does that path look like? What does this mean for you? What do you have to do? What do you have to sacrifice? What do you have to come to terms with? And what happens if the choice that you want to make is something that's ripped away from you? So, so be prepared to grow with the characters, but it's also going to sting.
If you could give a no context spoiler with like 3 words, what would you say?
I was gonna ask something like that. Like if you can give us just a random line from your book.
Yeah, like a random like 3 words, or if it's something that's like that, I don't know. You could make like a spoilery joke about like a show or about a book, and if someone hasn't seen it, it's totally not a spoiler. But if someone gets it, they're like, "Oh man!"
It's hard without prep work on that one, but yeah,
that's true.
I would say 3-word spoiler. This medicine burns.
Okay.
All right.
I'm here for this.
Yeah.
Well, now I'm very excited. Not that I wasn't before, but I always like hearing like a little blurb about, and I want to know like.
Yeah, I want to go find it.
Like my favorite thing in books is when they have like chapter names, and it's like whatever it is, and then I'm like, why did you name it this? Like I need to know why you named it this.
I can give you a couple chapter names now, and then you guys can just guess, and I'll stonewall you.
Okay. There we go. Let's hear it.
Let's see. So I have a chapter that's early on in the book called Assault of the Sleeve.
I don't even know what to say about that one. Assault of the Sleeve?
Sleeve?
The sleeve, like sleeved.
Okay, like so potentially the like a body snatcher kind of situation. Like the humans or the people are the sleeves.
I don't even have a guess.
Let's see. We've got another one later on the book called Plagued Arrival.
Doomed from the start is what that sounds like. That sounded like an evil laugh. I don't like that either.
And then I also have another one called Titan Birth.
Ooh, surely that's a good thing, right?
Yeah.
Who knows? It could be good, could be bad.
Surely all the chapter titles are the wins by the main character and not at all tragic and tragedy.
Well, I will not confirm or deny wins or tragedies in this book.
Okay. I'm hooked. I'm ready.
Yeah, I'm excited. We'll have to get it on the short list.
Yeah, I'd love to hear what you guys think of it.
I might need to do a book one reread to even just to it's
a refresh or revamp in the brain.
I mean, technically I had to do a book one refresh as I was writing this thing, because like you'd think you don't forget much, but in 2 years, some of the finer details can escape you. A lot can happen in 2 years.
Do you have a master like document of like this happened at this time and this person did this at this time to like kind of like outline yourself through it so you don't forget, or do you just reference the book itself?
Yeah, I kind of have a timeline. Also have I did like a Brandon Sanderson suggestion thing where I like wrote backstories for a lot of the characters in first person. And so going back to those when I was about to write the second book was really helpful, because it kind of showed me one, like the underlying stuff for each character, and then two, how far they've come. So some of them I even added like a little bit. It's like, and then this happened to me in book one, and then this is where I am now. And so maybe for the
That
third
sounds
book,
that sounds like a really good tool.
it was really helpful, especially figuring out like motivations and stuff. Because I think one of the things for Pathlighter was trying to figure out like how all these motivations like intersect. Like you can make a conflict easily, but figuring out why that conflict is happening, you got to be really set in that so that people actually believe it.
It makes sense. You got to make the conflict matter, or else people are just
Yeah.
waiting to fight.
There's got to be stakes, right?
Yep. It can't be
Medium
like can't be like I'm gonna throw out a left hook here, but it can't be like season 5 of Stranger Things.
Oh, yeah.
Yes.
Didn't
you
watch
can't. I don't know, man. The only thing I'll say about it is like there's no stakes. It feels like I didn't even watch the previous seasons. And like nothing matters. And so you just sit there not really caring about anything that's happening.
This is something I feel like I talk about all the time in books is you have to kill your characters. And I'm not saying you have to wipe the board. I'm not saying you have to kill the main character's mom or, Disney off the parents every single time or something like that. But if your book is like that high stake, if there's war happening, blah, blah, if nobody important dies, then what's the stakes? Right. Or contrary, if you kill your characters, but bring them back to life and like where it doesn't make sense just because you don't want to kill your character, it just totally kills the stakes because what are we doing then? Like, why did this all matter?
Yeah, it's like in season 4, I'm going to do the Stranger Things thing again. But like Vecna's ripping people limb from limb. He's an animal in that season. There's like he's got spies everywhere. There's like an army of minions, like the Demogorgons, all this stuff. And it feels like so much of that tension is gone in the 5th season. So I absolutely agree with you. If it were a show where people weren't dying for the first 4 seasons, I could understand why you would like get through a 5th season and like no major characters die. But like it's established right away that like people die in this show.
You set your own tone in the show, and then you just
changed it.
Didn't. Yeah.
Exactly. Well, and that's the thing. It's like they got so afraid of people getting mad because their favorite character was killed, or like that another character in the show might be sad that like someone died. But why are we afraid of characters feeling that? Why are we afraid of audience members potentially not liking a direction you took when it was the right direction for the story?
Which is, it's funny that it comes up again, but that's what we said about Dandelion Dynasty. It was like no one was safe, and it was also
it's like watching Game of Thrones.
Yeah, it was also driven by like what makes the most sense for like consequences for characters' actions, and it's like people die and no one is safe,
and especially not even as like a what do you call it? Like a shock value. Like you're not killing for shock value, you're killing because like it matters to the story and it changes this character's arc, or it does this to the plot or something like that, instead of this person died, lol, wasn't that terrible?
And that was something I tried to do in Pathlighter, and something I do again in Threadstealer is like people experience consequences for the stuff that they do, and some of those consequences sting. I think one of my favorite things that someone has ever said about Pathlighter is that like unlike traditional Greek myths where like divine power will often shield or redirect you from consequences, your proximity to power in the Pathlighter forces you directly into consequence. It doesn't shield you from it. And especially when you have these powers that if you use too much of it, you could really hurt yourself or die. Yeah, exactly. So, expanding that further and having these people interact with like other people and other like systems of power, systems of government, it's something that I really had to expand out more into like, okay, so in the first book, it was mostly just consequences that they wrought on themselves and on each other. But now you open up the world more, and what are the consequences then if someone makes the wrong choice?
I think that was my favorite part of book 1 was I'm a big fan of like consequences, because that's why Red Rising is one of my favorite series, is because the whole series is because of consequences. And like every tiny thing that is done has a consequence, good or bad, but typically bad in that series. But there's consequence, and you can see like the path of like this choice was made
Mhm.
you know, because it had to be made and you either chose wrong or you chose right, but it doesn't matter because there's consequences regardless. And I think
Yeah.
you know, book 1 does that really well. So for you to say that in book 2, it's no longer just against yourself type thing,
Mhm.
using your power, and now it affects, you know, things, people, the world around you. I think that's an exciting path to
Mhm.
take.
A path, you say?
Yeah.
I had to
Well,
say it at least
yeah.
once.
It's true.
And I mean, the consequences are really kind of the driving force of this book as well. Is you know, in the first book, a lot of the past and a lot of the lore in the world is kind of just hinted at. This one dives a little bit further into it, and then you see the consequences of, you know, what you learn. So I'm excited for people to experience that a little bit more and to hopefully see the reasoning behind some of the choices I made in this book.
Well, we're a big fan of world building, so
Yeah.
we're very excited.
Mhm.
Yeah,
Awesome.
looking forward to it. Looking forward to seeing the next installment.
Yeah.
Is there any final words or anything that you want to tell the people either about book 1 or about book 2 or just in general, a leaving line from Rob that you want to share?
Let's see. Um, I want to say that the characters in this book are something that I'm really proud of, and I hope that people really enjoy the characters in this second book even more than they did in the first book. And I, you know, I am just really thankful for everyone who's gotten this far in the journey with me and that are prepared to take this next step on this path, if you will. You know, we as indie authors or people in this space don't get anywhere without the help of people around them, and so I want to, you know, thank all of the people who helped me get to this point. I want to thank you guys for platforming me and allowing me to like speak about my books in this format. You know, you guys are a big part of why people in this community are so welcoming and just so supportive. And you know, I want to make sure that's not lost on you guys. You guys are awesome. And I was really excited to come on this video to, you know, chat books with you because I knew it was going to be a good time. So
Well, thank you very
Thanks,
much. We're
man.
very excited to have
Mhm.
you too.
Yeah.
We are still trying to get more and more into the interview space and stuff like that, especially with books, you know, we're currently reading or have read too. So we're glad we finally were able to make this happen, you know, in light
Yeah.
of book 2 coming out.
Yeah, I really hope you guys like it. I absolutely loved your review of Pathlighter. I was laughing along with you guys. I was like nodding along as you were making points, and then I was like, oh, like it really helped with a lot of the stuff I was like doing as I was finishing up book 2 as well. Like it gave me, I don't know. I think every time you hear someone give feedback, it helps you to, you know, be better in your next outing. So I appreciate you guys for not only reading it but also, you know, giving your thoughts.
Of course.
Glad we could help. It's always fun, weird, interesting. It's a
Mhm.
fun relationship with indie authors, especially when we do our videos, and it's like I know they're gonna go watch it, and so it's like hopefully it's not like offensive and it's just like taken at face value. So it's always fun to hear positive feedback about our reviews.
Or we make a joke because we're like, oh, this part was really fun. And they're like,
Mhm.
that wasn't supposed to be a funny part. And we're like, well, oops.
We always enjoy talking to Brian about
Oh
when
yeah.
we do our reviews with him because he likes to not combat, but he likes to argue with our takes, and so we
Mhm.
like message him and he's like, "You said this, but here's why I did that," and it's like, okay,
In a
Yeah,
good way.
yeah, he's fun.
Yeah.
He's fun. It's not negative.
I'm actually reading his third book right now. I'm reading The Dark Element, and I'm super excited.
It's
I'm
a good
about
one.
like 115 pages in, and I think I'm really jealous of Brian because he always picks like the coldest lines. You know how like sometimes someone will say something and you're just like, oh, that was sick.
Yeah.
I think the line, you know, I'm no better than anyone else in the galaxy, but I am better than you. I was
Yeah,
that's my dream or maybe my goal. Hopefully, too, has a line
yeah.
that's just as
Drop some
cold.
bombs, some repeatable quotes.
Exactly.
Yeah, Brian just finished his draft of the fourth
I
book.
saw that, man. I can't wait. That's why
I'm
I'm
excited
reading
too.
book 3 right now. I gotta get caught up.
There
Mm-hmm.
we go.
Mhm.
Well, thanks for joining us, Rob. It was fun it was fun chatting with you. Can't wait to read your book. Definitely for those out there where can they find you? Are you on Instagram and TikTok, or just Instagram?
I'm just Instagram, Threads, and sometimes I'm on Twitter, but I usually forget. It takes a lot of effort to do just Instagram. So I don't know how you guys have all these platforms and you keep it straight.
We do a lot of tag teaming.
We get to cheat. We have two of us.
Yeah,
Yeah, that's
true.
right.
We did
I was
clone
gonna say,
ourselves.
I need to clone myself. But I am on Instagram mainly, and then you can find me at robleauthor.com. And then I also have a mailing list at that website, so people can sign up and they can figure out what I'm doing on a monthly basis. And yeah, that's about it.
So yeah, if you haven't already, definitely check out Rob's first book, Pathlighter.
Joe's book 2.
And then after that, you'll definitely want to pick up
Threadstealer.
book 2.
Threadstealer.
Mm-hmm.
All right. So again, Threadstealer comes out April 10th. So make sure if you haven't read book 1, go read it. You have a day and a half at the time of
Plenty of
recording.
time.
Plenty of time. You can do it one sitting. Just do it. But then definitely check out book 2. Don't forget to rate it on all the platforms that you're on, especially Goodreads, Amazon, and anywhere that you review books. So make sure to go ahead and do that. And then let us know what you thought. Let Rob know what you thought. He's, like I said, on Instagram. He likes to chat about his book. He wrote it. So of course he likes to talk about it. Thank you again so much for being here, Rob. We appreciate it. Thanks for coming on.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
And everybody else, thanks for watching. And if you want to go ahead and be on an interview yourself, go ahead and shoot us a DM. But I think that's what we got. So on that note, we'll see you guys next time.
RSQ out.